Hey everyone.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Buzzing About Romance Happy Hour. I am so sorry we are late tonight. I had a little electrical issue where things started not working and I was panicking. So tonight we are celebrating authors Brenda Rothert and Kat Mizera and their latest release, Hard Limit. Welcome to the podcast, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We are super excited. I read this book and I loved it. I'm so excited to kind of talk about it. Guys, we promise not to spoil this because you have to read this book in its entirety.
Yes, there are some things if we bring up, like it'll just ruin the whole book for you. And this is one you have to read by yourself from beginning to end. So
spoiler free, we promise.
Okay.
So, Becky, do you want to read Kat and Brenda's bios for us?
I do. Okay, so Kat, USA Today bestselling author Kat Mizera, is a South Florida native born in Miami Beach with a healthy dose of wanderlust. She called Los Angeles, Long Island, upstate New York, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Atlanta home. She's never been able to pick which locale is her favorite, but if she's pressed, she'd probably choose the West Coast. Kat, where haven't you lived? Because now you're in Georgia.
Right. I haven't lived in the Pacific Northeast. Northwest. I haven't lived in the Midwest.
You're not missing much in the Midwest. There's corn and flatland.
I just don't like cold. So
Don't come here then.
Yeah, don't. Okay, so Brenda Rothert is the author of more than 30 contemporary romance novels. You can learn more about her books at her website, brendarothert.com, which features teasers, excerpts, and trailers for her books. So I kind of shortened everybody's bio. So we had more time to chat.
Yeah, that works.
Good.
Okay, so the rules of the night, you can ask all the questions you want in the chat, and Becky is taking care of that. So if you want something asked and she doesn't ask it, just ask it again. And she'll be like, I need to ask this one. It's in there twice. And we will do our best to answer them. In the description of the video are links to all the places you can connect with everybody. If you follow, like, and subscribe at the end of the night, one lucky person will win a swag-filled box from us.
That's a lie.
Is it
They're
going
to win a t-shirt tonight.
Oh, okay.
Are you wearing your Buzzing About Romance t-shirt?
I am wearing my Buzzing About Romance t-shirt.
So we are giving away Buzzing About Romance t-shirt. You can either have that or one of our Galentine's t-shirts, Galentine's Day t-shirts that's featured in our merch shop. So
in our merch shop, they're like the softest t-shirts you will ever wear. So
yeah. So what's next?
We're going to kick things off in our traditional way. Kat, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking water, but I'm drinking water in a really cool cup that says "Some girls love hockey and swear at the TV." It's me. I'm some girls.
That's a great mug.
Brenda, how about you?
I am drinkless.
Oh,
Not thirsty. I don't know. I have my Yeti water bottle in the other room. I'm like a big nighttime water drinker, so
Yeah.
I guess water.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
Look, Leah, I pulled out my Get Pucked tumbler.
I didn't even think about
in
that.
honor
I
of
totally
tonight.
should've.
Nice.
I had an
I
open
have a tumbler like that.
Isn't that a great tumbler? I don't.
We got them in the there was a
Hello Lovely
Piper
box.
Rain, a Hello Lovely Piper Rain box. It was their hockey series, and we got them in that.
Yeah.
Fun.
So I got Get Pucked, and it's got jam jar in it because
This
tomorrow
jam jar.
it's a sweet red wine.
Hmm.
Tomorrow is National Drink Wine Day.
Oh, well, I'm all
I
about
did
that.
not know that.
Right?
It's good to know. Thank you for letting us know.
You're
Yes.
welcome. I have done a service.
You have. And I'm having tequila and blood orange juice in my
Ooh.
Buzzing About Romance mug because everything's better in a coffee mug.
Leah likes cups with a handle.
I do. So, question one of the night, and either one of you can jump in, but why romance?
You want to take that one, Kat?
I like happy endings. I like the premise that I always know what's going to happen as far as the main couple is going to be together. If nothing else, it's going to be a happy for now. I don't like those surprise endings where you're reading along any book, any genre, and you get to the end and there's some horrible catastrophe. And you're just like, what? So since I love to read it, I also decided to write it.
Yeah.
I
How
like
about you,
the
Brenda?
romance.
I do like the romance too.
I love romance for so many reasons. I feel like out of all the wonderful things about what I get to do for a living, the best part is getting to make people feel good when they escape with a book, in the evening, at the end of the day, no matter what's going on in your day, you get to kind of lose yourself in that story that's going on. And I think the desire to do that and love itself are universal. Doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter how much money you make. We all, we all want to have love in our lives, not just the romantic kind. That's one thing Kat and I try to focus on in our books is all the different kinds of love there are, from parent and child to, siblings to friends. I feel like love unites us all, and that's why romance for me.
I love that.
It's also because it's the best, Leah. Romance is the best.
You're saying it
really
like
is, and so is the
believe
romance
that.
book community. I mean, it's
it's
such a welcoming,
place.
inclusive, and if somebody steps out of line and hurts somebody in the romance community, there is a whole.
Might have froze for a minute.
We're kind, we're accepting. I just feel like the whole book world community is an awesome thing to be part of.
I agree.
It is. I think it's the first time in my adult life that I have felt like I found my people. Like, this is truly my tribe. It feels more genuine than even like mom friends that I had when my kids were little. My kids are teens now and
Totally
moving on with life, and you sometimes feel a little left behind.
Don't you feel like it's more than just a love of romance book that unites us? Like, once we start talking to each other and getting to know each other, we all have so much commonality in other areas. And like in my reader group, I love seeing pictures and stuff from the new moms, of babies and toddlers. I'm like, I remember, when that was me. And I just find that I have so much commonality outside of just a love of the same books with people in the romance community.
I agree. It's also been, we had an interview last night and we talked about how with the pandemic, things have felt kind of isolated and socializing is different. Yes. And while I haven't left my house a lot in 2 years, I actually have been more social virtually than I had previous. And I mean, it's been great. I have the romance community is amazing. I love it.
I agree.
Okay. So
in the chat, I put both Brenda and Kat's Facebook pages. You can like those. And also, they're also in the description of the video and along with their Facebook groups. So
thank you.
Okay. So you both write hockey romances. What drew you to writing the hockey romance?
You want to go first, Kat?
I know for me, for one thing, I'm married to a hockey player, not professional, but my husband has played his whole life. He played through college and then he coached at a junior college. We're big hockey fans. And then for a few years between maybe 2012 and 2014, I was hired on an online hockey blog, and I was covering the NHL. I was covering the Florida Panthers in particular. And I just loved being in the locker room and being with the press corps at the games. And it was a lot of fun. And the plot bunnies, when you're a writer, the plot bunnies just hit you. They just come out of nowhere. And I knew that my first series when I started publishing fiction, because I had been a journalist for a long time.
Mhm.
But once I started publishing fiction, I knew I was going to go the hockey route.
So do you write only hockey, or do you venture
He has
into other
rock
things?
stars.
Oh,
I have Rockstar.
Oh,
I
that's
have
right. You do have that new series.
And I have Royalty. I have Bodyguard. I have a bunch of stuff, but hockey is my main.
I have only read your hockey series. Like I haven't read a ton of your books, I will say that, but I've only read the hockey ones because I don't like a rock star, to be honest.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm trying to fix that. I am trying to fix that because I personally am obsessed with the rock stars.
You are, yes. So Brenda, how about you? Why hockey romance?
So I came upon hockey romance in this super random way. I was a newspaper reporter for 9 years, and then I started writing romance when I was a communications manager. And back then I was still learning the ropes, and I did not know. I mean, it was like 2013. I didn't know how you did things like, how do I get a book cover? So I had a photographer friend I knew do photo shoots for me. And I told my friend, who was the manager of a radio station, hey, I have this super tall character in this book. It was called Now and Again. I need a super tall cover model, and I don't know anyone. You know a bunch of people and athletes and stuff. And he said, yeah, I know the perfect guy. They call him Big Sexy. And I was like, perfect, needs to be really tall. And he was actually the assistant coach of our local SPHL hockey team, the Peoria Rivermen. And so I met him. And then, of course, the head coach had to come to that photo shoot because that's like, they're good friends. It was right up his alley to see his friend doing a romance book cover shoot. They were the nicest guys. And they said, hey, if you ever want to learn about hockey, come check out a game, meet the players, write some hockey romance. And I was like, yeah. So that's how that happened for me. I didn't know much about hockey before. They started teaching me, and I would take the players out for lunch. They don't make a lot of money. So it would be, I buy you the all you can eat Chinese buffet, and you answer all my questions. And they're just the nicest, seriously, just the nicest, coolest bunch of people ever. I mean, I just met so many great guys, and I'm a big fan of the team. My husband and I still go to games. So here I am. It turned out, who knew hockey romance is super popular and awesome. And I just stumbled into it by lucky chance.
That's kind of nice though. Like you had those players to like pick their brain and like figure out how like their thoughts and feelings on it. So did you base a lot of your characters off of them?
So I based a lot of the things that would happen to my characters. They would tell me some outrageous personal stories too, because, when you're a young pro athlete, it's like, I mean, you can get the women pretty easy. And so they would tell me a lot of personal stories that would just make me cut up. And definitely, I used a lot of those things, and I still do. There was a character, I'm not going to be able to, Victor in my Chicago Blaze series was loosely based on that assistant coach, Kevin, who had leukemia as a child and would walk to his treatments. He lived in Canada at the time. So it's not that I take a hockey player I know and I pour all of him into one character, but I take bits and pieces from all of them that kind of stay with me. And I never know when I'm going to use it,
That's awesome though. I think that's wonderful that you had that option to do that, because not everybody has that.
It was great. And I learned a lot. And I didn't realize, the minor league guys, they don't make a lot at all. They play strictly for sheer love of the game. And a lot of them know they're never going to make a lot of money at it. I mean, they would tape their pants up with duct tape when they had to. The practice gear, they're just playing strictly because they absolutely love the game. And I think there's something so cool about that.
I think that that's kind of what makes hockey players in romance kind of awesome characters, because they're multifaceted. They have this love of the game, but there's also this passion in them. And I think that that's what draws me, because where I live, the university I went to has a hockey team. They still have hockey, even though a lot of universities are cutting hockey. And we have is it ECHL league up in Toledo from where I live that. And when I was in college, it was the Toledo Storm, and now they're the Toledo Walleye. And I went to games because usually you could get a guy to take you to a game and buy you free beer. So anyway, but I'm not really a hockey fan. I don't know a ton about hockey. I just really went to the games for free beer. But I'm totally like sucked into hockey romances. And I think it's because these characters within, passion for the game, passion for life, passion for what they do, it creates these multifaceted characters that I just love. I'm drawn to them. I mean, Leah yells at me all the time, tells me I'm supposed to reading other books and get out of the hockey romances.
No, don't take that advice.
Becky's the queen of sending me down rabbit holes, though.
I read all the wrong things.
It happens. So the two of you have success like individually, but what inspired you guys to co-write this new series?
Is it okay if I start this one, Kat?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to start this one because it was actually my idea. I asked Kat to write with me because we had become critique partners. So that's where, I write a couple chapters of my book. I send them to her. She tells me, hey, this is good, this is bad, change this, do that. So we were giving each other feedback on our work. And I just liked a lot of things about her and her work. She is very complimentary to me, where I'm weak, she's strong, and vice versa. So that's kind of how we came together. Is we were on the phone one day and I was like, we should write a book. And she was like, okay. So that's how that happened.
Yep. That's exactly how it happened.
I love that. The first book is Hardfall in this series, and it's in St. Louis. So why St. Louis? Because traditionally, Kat, your book's been Las Vegas and Alaska, and Brenda, you're in Chicago, and now you're spinning off to Vegas.
Yeah. So sorry, I don't mean to monopolize things, but I made the St. Louis choice. So I have like 15 hockey romances set in Chicago, and I'm from downstate Illinois. We wanted to do somewhere else that was neither one of us had done before. I'm a Midwest girl. I think St. Louis is such a cool city, and we felt like it was totally underrepresented in sports romance. Maybe somebody else has set books in St. Louis, but if they have, I don't know about it. So we were like, this is a cool city. We don't feel like it gets the love that a lot of other cities do. So we were like, we're just going to go for it. And we did a trip to St. Louis to learn about it and do research. And it was really cool when the first book came out and we had readers from St. Louis saying, it's so cool to see my city represented finally. So that's how we got to St. Louis.
It's an interesting city because it has a big history, and the Blues kind of have a storybook hockey, story themselves. I don't know. Words are hard tonight, Leah. Stop. So, I mean, it is a hockey town. It's much, it's much a hockey town as Detroit and everybody else. So I think it's amazing. I like St. Louis. I think it has potential to be a pretty phenomenal backdrop for your stories.
Thanks. Kat, what did you think of St. Louis when we went there?
Oh, it was fantastic. I loved it. We
had a great trip. We
had a great trip. We were walking around at night, just like downtown, gazing at the arch in the background. And like, we kind of got a feel for the vibe of the city. And while it's a big city, it's not a big city. Like, you can't compare St. Louis to like New York or Miami. It's a different, it's got that Midwestern vibe.
I felt the same way. Like, I went to, granted I was in high school when I went, but like and I live in the country. I'm not a city girl at all. Like, concrete freaks me out when there's too much of it. But when being in St. Louis, like, I didn't feel like I was in that big city. Like, yes, it's a metropolis of the state, but at the same time, it doesn't feel that way.
it doesn't have like the gridlock traffic that a lot of big cities do. You don't have to pay an absolute fortune to park your car. And there are just a lot of cool things to do in St. Louis. It's one of my favorite places to visit. The city museum there is just completely awesome. There's like a bus on the roof, kind of like hanging off, that the kids can go in. And it's just a really cool, laid back city. And it's super cool to feel like, and I apologize if anybody has written hockey books in St. Louis and I just don't know about it, but to the best of my knowledge, it's really cool to kind of be the first, you know, to represent something in books.
Yeah. Well, and there's a great scene in Hard Limit where they kind of do the touristy thing and they go up in the arch. I loved that scene. I loved that. It was
good. You know what? We went to the bottom of the arch, right? The whole where you tour it and you learn the history. We went into the bookstore, or the gift shop, whatever. I call it a bookstore. Yeah. And we were talking and planning the book at that time, saying what gifts, would they get each other? And it just really got us in the right mindset to write that date.
It did.
Yeah, I love that entire scene, the way it played out. Because when he gave her gift, she was like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah, it's such a Lars thing to do, like to just give you a random coffee mug. And she put tons of thought into hers,
I've been married for 24 years. It's only in the last 4 years that he became a good gift giver. So some guys need a little extra help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're still not at that point. So
Gretchen said she's putting St. Louis on her travel list, and Jennifer says she used to live near St. Louis, and they called it the Little Big City. So
cool.
So you guys, it definitely had a small town feel in the books. I would agree with that.
There was a part in Hard Limit where I wrote somebody saying, "Welcome to the Lou." You remember who it was, Kat? When Sawyer gets there, it might have been Nash.
It might have
anyway,
been
he says, "Welcome
Nash
to the Lou."
West.
And my editor was like, "What is this?" And I'm like, we call it that. It's the Lou to the people, who go there. And she's like, "I had no idea." So little things like that, I think are really fun to put into books that you kind of only know if you have a familiarity with them.
Yeah.
One thing I liked about the book, because I did not read book 1, but for book 2, you have the group text messages, as your chapter beginnings. And I really like that. And the relationship that you can see between the teammates and some of the ridiculous things that they're saying. I just love that.
So just earlier this evening, I was like, okay, I wrote those. So I'm like, Kat's telling me that her readers are reaching out to her to say that they like them. No one has reached out to me. I haven't seen it in any review. And I'm like, I worked so hard on those. I just want somebody to tell me that they liked them.
I'm telling you now, I like those.
I liked them. And it's funny because Minnesota Hockey Mom reads, her number 1 book of 2021 was Hardfall.
I remember
4 months. She was like, "Are you going to read this? Are you going to read this?" I'm like, "It is on my TBR. I'm going to get to it. I have to get to it before I read book 2. So I forced myself to sign up for the arc of book 2 so that I would make myself read book 1. And I read it. Yeah. And before I even read it, she's like, "You're going to love these text messages." And I'm like, whatever. But it is such a great way to communicate for character development, to get to know the characters without long wordy descriptions. You really get a sense of who these guys are through those text messages.
Yes.
And I love it. I love it. I'm all in.
One of my favorite books is Dear Aaron by Mariana Zapata. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right.
You did.
And so much of the book is just laid out in letters to the two main characters back and forth. And I love that unique format. You know what I mean? Because we read so much that is set up the same. Right. It's really cool to see our characters communicating in a different way in a book. So that's always our goal with the text, is kind of show you that side of them. It's not always grammatically correct. Sometimes they're funny, and hopefully that's usually our goal. But yeah, it's really great to hear good feedback on that, because we work hard on those things.
Well, and I feel like you have a little bit more freedom in the way you structure those conversations too. Like you don't have, like, it doesn't have to be like sound, like edited wise. Like it doesn't have to be like a full thought. Like you can just end it. Like
my editor will try to formalize those, and I always reject those changes because
it's,
I want my books
text.
to read like, read it like it actually happened.
Is it Nash who's the random texter that kind of just always puts like ridiculous? Is he the ridiculous one in the text message?
He's the one with
I'm going to need his book. Is his book free?
Yes, Leah.
Okay.
Next. Yeah.
He was the older lady. He licked the boot.
Yes.
Mistress Sandra.
Mistress Sandra.
That entire like situation, I laughed so hard. Like I could not stop.
I'm not even a little bit funny in real life. So when like things from my books are funny, I'm like, that's awesome.
She writes, she's so witty. She kills me sometimes. She'll send me a chapter and I'll be like, oh my God. And I have to call her because I'm laughing so hard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I'm in real life, I'm like not funny at all.
Sometimes.
I mean, according to my kids, I'm not funny. So
the people in this house do not think I am funny. So,
but I think you're funny.
I think you're hilarious.
There you go.
So,
so for these books, like how do you write them? Do you go like chapter by chapter, or do you write like a sequence and then you're like, and then you get stuck and then you shift it to Brenda, or do you have like a planned?
For each book, we've decided which character we were going to take.
Okay.
And then we discuss their personalities. We discuss, the overall plot. And then, we go a few chapters at a time. We discovered that we can't plot out too much at a time because we like to let our characters develop organically and relationships and everything else. So we go a few chapters at a time, and we know, chapter 2 is going to be where he picks her up for the date and then they're going to go to the arch, that kind of thing. Like we don't get into it. We don't plot in any detail, and
you have like a basic outline for what you want to happen.
Right. And then there will be times I can remember, I think it was with Hard Limit that I was, like 3/4 or a little bit more done with the chapter, and I needed to write some hockey and I was just all tapped out. So I sent it to Kat and I'm like, can you hockey here? And she did. Yeah. So that's nice to have somebody that you can be like, I really need some help on this. And then we finished writing a book together and we go to write a solo one and we're like, this is ridiculous. I have to write every single chapter. Like nobody's writing the next chapter for me. This is intolerable. It's kind of addicting when somebody's writing the next chapter of your book. I know it sounds weird, but when you get the right combination of people, I think co-writing can really create two unique and distinctive voices within a book, which it's really cool.
It really is.
I think there has to be a little bit too of instant gratification a little bit also when you're co-writing, because they're reading your chapter like as, almost as you're doing it. And they're saying, oh my gosh, yes, this works great. And this is going to fit into this piece now. And
you send it and you're like, 30 seconds goes by and you're like, did you read it yet? What about now? Did you
and like our joke would be, I'm sorry, there's nothing in my inbox for me to read with my coffee.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
That's so funny. But so then another cool thing about it is like, we'll be writing and we've got a few chapters outlined and Kat will be like, I had this idea, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so great. I never would have thought of that idea, So it's like, I went to this Christina Lauren panel one time. I am a huge Christina Lauren fan. And I think the title of their presentation was like, 2 brains, 4 hands or something. And I was like, like it's twice as many brains working on your book as when you do a solo one. And it's just really it's really fun because writing can be a super solitary profession, you know, where something's just not working and you're bummed. And you can try to talk to your author friends about it, but it can be hard to explain exactly what you're struggling with.
Mhm.
And I think when you have that co-author relationship, you're not alone in working through the problems you're having with a book. And that's really nice.
It is invaluable.
So
Sorry.
that's okay. These books, and I've read a little bit from both of you. These books have some deal with some tougher topics and seem to have a bit more of an emotional depth to them. Not that your other books don't deal with some harder topics, because I've read Kat's and there's definitely, grief and past abuse and stuff like that we've read. And in Brenda, I just read your contribution to the Cock Hero Club, and that's dealing again with grief. And
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I loved that book, just so you know.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that was on my Kindle. I haven't had time to get to it.
I've
But
so many.
I have
Not
it
a
on
valid
my Kindle.
excuse. No,
It's not. Well, if her co-host would stop sending her down rabbit holes, she probably could get to it a little faster.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
It was a dirty taboo rabbit hole that I just could not get out of.
This week
I
was
get it. Yeah.
super, super dirty. But
You
these
You got to do what you got to do.
yeah,
Mhm.
embarrassing almost how dirty and taboo we went.
It was real bad, but really good.
The mistress would have fit in just fine, but more extreme
nice.
to what we were reading
Yeah.
earlier this week.
Nice.
But there is a deeper emotional piece to this book. Like the first book, it's grief. I mean, it is just living through grief and how to move forward. And gosh, that book, it really did wreck me. Hard Fall kind of wrecked me a little bit. It's definitely a book hangover book. You guys, if you
Sort of
if you haven't
cheering
read
for your
it-
emotional turmoil.
right,
Well, it's funny that we had asked some author friends to read it for us because we were, it was our first book and we were trying to get some friends to give us some feedback.
Mhm.
And I sent it to Carly Phillips, and she texted me a little while in and she's like, "You didn't tell me I was going to cry in chapter 1." I was like, "Oh, sorry." So we worked hard to bring out
I think our goal though was to I'm not sure if I can verbalize this well, but the grief is there, yes, but our goal was to also show that maybe family can be unconventional,
Mhm.
like the hockey team all coming together to support them, and somebody that you thought you hated who is suddenly your co-parent. But we were trying to show that there can still be joy and there can still be laughter, even in the midst of something so awful. That if you have people around you, you can get through it. And that was our goal. Our goal, I think, with every book is myriad emotions. We're not trying to make people feel only any one or two things. We hope that they feel like we put them through an emotional ringer by the end, where they laughed and cried and
Mhm.
just really felt a lot of different things.
there were
You
just
have
it was
succeeded.
big emotions, both Hard Fall and Hard Limit, big emotions. And for me, for Hard
Good.
Limit, reading Lars and all the things that self-awareness and coming to terms with his way through life and everything, as a mom with a kid that's kind of neurodivergent, it was really good to read, because it's like,
Yes.
hey, there is hopefully, maybe he'll be 30 before it happens, some self-awareness, some moving through things. And there's a hope about that book that
Thank you.
I loved
Thank
with
you.
Lars.
I also have a neurodivergent kid, and as we wrote this, we talked a lot about how do we tie up the thread of Lars's storyline and his own internal struggle. And something that was important to me, and I think Kat too, is that it doesn't get tied up super neatly. It is part of who he is, and it always will be. And there's no grand solution. There's not necessarily a grand acceptance. It's a process, and it doesn't always happen in a straight line. So I hope that readers felt emotionally satisfied, but I hope that they also didn't feel like there's any one right or wrong way to deal with any sort of diagnosis you get. You don't have to radically accept it off the get-go and become a spokesperson and start raising money. You don't have to tell anyone, you do you, I think, and you do it at your pace. And I hope
I liked that he wasn't perfect. I liked that he was scared of it. I liked that it caused him turmoil. And, I liked that in the end, he wasn't perfect. It wasn't like, oh, I have a label now, and I'm going to go forward and tell everyone that, look, you too can be like me with my label. It wasn't like that. And I liked that. Because it just felt real and genuine. And, whenever you get any kind of diagnosis in life, there's a series of feelings that you have to go through. Kind of like grief, in mourning. There's stages of acceptance. And maybe he hasn't hit them all, and he didn't hit them all like right away. And I liked that.
Good.
It was just so well done. And we can talk about Miss Sheridan. I loved that she was a real-bodied heroine. She drove me a little bonkers. There were a couple times that I was like, sister's going to get a boob punch. That is all there is to it. But I want that. I want characters that do that. I want characters that elicit like all sorts of emotions from me. But yeah, she deserved a couple of boob punches. But in the end, she won. So it was fine.
I feel like when you're reading her story and like you do get to that boob punch stage, but then you like find out why she's acting the way she is. You're like, maybe you just need a big hug.
Yeah.
Isn't that so true too? Like sometimes reading books gives me a better perspective on people in real life. Like you think but maybe you don't.
Right.
Maybe you really don't know what's going on with somebody.
Well, and the piece that really spoke to me, because I've had it happen to me, was the best friend piece. And I'm not going to spoil anything for the book, but that best friend piece, it really hit home because it kind of in a way validated some other feelings that I had, that guilt that maybe I hadn't done enough, or guilt that, some relationships, people are supposed to be in your lives at different points and stuff like that. And when all that went down with the best friend, there was a little bit of like validation that I'm okay. Like, it's not just me. I'm not sole and alone in some of those kinds of situations. So, again, eliciting big emotions from me, which, kudos, ladies, because Leah will tell you I'm a robot. I don't always emotionally react correctly to books.
Oh,
well, that's awesome to hear, because that's our goal, is to strike the right balance, to not overdo it. We did stop at a certain point in this book. What would you say, like maybe 15%, Kat? We stopped and we went back and we said, we need to do this a little bit differently than what we're doing it right now. And I'm really pleased with the choices we decided to make. And then we can start rolling forward again, with the story that we're more comfortable with. But we want to put them through some stuff, but not stuff just for the sake of stuff. And I didn't really feel like any of that was the case in this book. I felt like not necessarily people every day around the world struggle with the things Sheridan struggled with.
right.
But to a certain extent, I mean, minus the money and the fame, absolutely. Yeah. Unhealthy relationships, feeling alone, feeling like you don't have anyone to turn to. Lots of people struggle with those things.
Wanting to shut out the noise and quiet the people around you because you can't in that moment. Yeah. So
Yes.
Gretchen or Christina here says every neurodivergent person reacts differently. Heather says, I really like how the diagnosis was presented and how it was done in the book. So I think she's talking back to how Lars was done. And
Good.
Jenny says, reading has made her a much more compassionate person. And
Yes.
I agree. I think especially reading romance, because you're seeing, if you read billionaire romances, sometimes you're seeing things from different points of view that you don't always think about. Some of the loneliness that comes, like for hockey romances, the loneliness that comes with the fame of being a hockey star, and who do you trust? And is this girl really into me, or is she just being with me to see where I can get her? Or is it about money or whatever?
And the travel, I mean, 82 games a year is a lot, you know, and imagine yourself in a relationship with somebody and it's new and you like it, but they have to leave for a few days and then they come back home and they have to leave for a few days. And I think that's such a unique aspect probably in real life for professional athletes, is forming that trust early on, because you have to have that trust early on, I think, with the amount of travel that they do.
I totally agree with that. I agree. And again, it's like, you think, oh yeah, I want to marry the rich, hot, successful hockey player. And then I think, no, I don't, because I like that my husband comes in that door every night at 5:00 and I can look at him and be like, yeah, that teen is being bad and that one's mouth won't stop. I'm done.
like, I'm out.
Yes.
Tap out.
Your turn.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm like, yeah, we talk about the toddler days. Like, he used to come home, the girl child would only let him put her to sleep. So he worked for a newspaper in production and layout design and everything. And he'd come home at like 9-10 o'clock after they had laid things out. And he'd have to, like, as soon as he came home, change and put the girl child to bed because she refused. Yeah. And we just talked about that the other day. I was like, I don't know how I survived those years, because if anything had happened.
I know.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't imagine. Okay, so we have Hard Fall. It is out now, available wherever you guys get books. Hard Limit came out on Tuesday. It is also available wherever you get books. I will say, Leah, you read Hard Limit on its own, so it can be read as standalone.
And I did not read book one, but I was not confused. I was not lost, because there are some times when authors claim it's a standalone, but it's not. But this one stands very well on its own.
Good.
And then May 22nd, we have Hard Pass coming out.
Is it
right?
Yes. But we did get a little
May 17th.
tease.
Okay, well,
So
I don't know.
May something. May something.
Yeah, so May 17th. May 17th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had this plan for Hard Pass that we were going to do, and we were writing it and everything. And then we decided last week to change the plan.
Yep.
So the people who got an advance copy of Hard Pass,
the tease that we got is not.
Yeah, read a first chapter that was axed. We're going in a totally different direction. Yeah. So we were able to get that pulled from the book before release. Mm-hmm. So however many art copies went out, maybe 100. Those people did read that chapter, and hopefully they won't be enormously confused when we change, because we just decided to go a totally different direction with his.
Yeah, we should not tell Heather.
Well,
because she's gonna watch this, she will.
She's on the beach in Florida right now. So
I have a slight bit of good news. I am writing the other book that you guys, the ARC readers, saw chapter 1 of. I'm writing that on my own.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was just like, I love it. I love it. I wish I could write every book in the future on an island near Fiji. I'm in the middle of writing it right now, and it is just like, I love it so much. I hope people will pay a little bit of money to read this book, but if they don't, that's cool, because at least I get to write it.
It's a fantastic, fun, and I'm still her CP, right? So I still read everything she writes, and it's a fantastic, fun story. We just to clarify, we just decided that we weren't sure it was a good fit for this series, because we've built all these relationships between the guys, and we have some things coming up that we always drop little teasers, like we kind of know what we're doing in the future. And there was just no way to do it in that story, in that setting. Right. And so,
if I'm going to write a totally weird, random book, I kind of want it to just all be on me. You know,
Right.
I don't want to, and I write weird books sometimes. I wrote a book set in a doomsday bunker once, and I love it. I sometimes just have an itch to write a really weird book.
And you just go with
But
it.
yeah, and I'm going to, but our series, we're going to stick with, you know, the long-term plan that
Mhm.
we have, like Kat said, to keep laying the groundwork for future stories.
Okay,
Now,
so we
go
just
ahead,
have
Becky.
hard pass now, but there are going to be more St. Louis stories after hard pass.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
I just need to
Yeah,
know
we
if I'm
just,
only going to get the 3 and I should just dream
no.
quietly about the other guys, or if I can be like, hey,
When we went to St. Louis, we sat down and we planned out 6.
Okay.
this does not
I
make
don't know
me
what's going to
sad.
happen, but that is the
Well,
plan.
the way it's going, there could easily be more than that, you know.
But at least 6.
At least
Yeah.
6.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And some bonus content too. Like we wrote a serial that we sent out to our newsletter subscribers that's set in the St. Louis Mavericks world.
Mhm.
And we're also doing like a short novella for Color Theory that Renita McKinney is putting together.
Okay.
So like we're very much immersed in this world. Wouldn't you say, Kat? I mean,
Oh,
it would be nice if we could just stay in this world for the next 2 years and just get everything written. It's kind of
Every
hard to
time-
leave the world.
every time we have to leave the world to write our own books, and we love our own books. It's not that. It's just the camaraderie
Mhm.
and the way we do it. It's all encompassing. Like it's hard to leave the Mavericks world and go into our own worlds. And then we're there in our own worlds alone, and we're texting each other like,
It is.
"You want to write my next chapter for me?"
Yeah. I'm like, this sucks.
This sucks alone.
Then we go back into the world though, and it's kind of like your favorite pair of shoes that just fits you so perfectly every time you put them on, no matter how long it's been, because we feel like we really know these people. We've worked hard on those secondary characters and those teammate and friendship relationships. So I feel like when we go back into this world, we always have a place to stand. You know, we've never been in a situation where it's like, well, what are we going to do now? You know, where can we go? We've given ourselves, you know, a really wide platform for this world. And I feel like we're going to be standing on that platform and building in this world for a really long time.
So does the the St. Louis world, does it cross over and in with your separate worlds? So are they like all in the same hockey?
No.
No, that world is totally separate from everything else, just because it gets really convoluted for me crossing things over into different worlds.
Mhm.
So we just decided this is a whole separate brand new thing. Who knows what we'll decide to do in the future, but
But right now it's separate.
Right now we're keeping it separate.
right.
There's already a lot of moving pieces. I mean, I have my Sidewinders Generation series.
Mhm.
I just finished my Alaska Blizzard series. I've got the Mavericks going. And in March, the first book of my Lauderdale Knights series is coming. So that's 4 different worlds of hockey series that I have to keep straight in my head. And that's plenty.
Well, and Brenda, you just left Chicago and started Las Vegas in November?
Sometime.
It was this
I think
fall.
you're right. You're right. Yeah, Pike.
Maverick came out in August.
I think you're right. Yeah, and Pike came out in January.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you're
just
right.
know that
So that's
Heather, our
that
hockey
world-
authority, was like, are you reading this yet? And I'm like, I'm working on it. Give me a minute.
Yeah, I know. You give a girl a minute, right? That world is connected to the standalone. I think the standalone I'm writing is going to take place in the same world,
Mhm.
but the standalone is about 16 players from 16 NHL teams who compete in this reality show on an island. So you might see a Blaze player in that book. You might see a Sin City Saints player in that book. You won't see anybody from the Mavericks though, because Kat and I have decided that world is totally separate.
Mhm.
I feel like if you're going to cross worlds, you need to really, really do it. Don't just do it for lip service.
Right.
Don't tell people, hey, you might see a brief appearance. I feel like if I'm going to cross into different worlds, I want to really give people some emotional payoff. And it's just a lot of planning and work that goes into crossing over worlds.
Yeah, for now, we're just keeping it separate. It's just easier.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but it's kind of nice too, because so if you aren't familiar with Brenda and Kat as separate authors and you try Hard Fall, Hard Limit, Hard Pass, then somebody's going to read those and they're going to be like, oh, because see, we love a backlist around here.
We do.
So then you can be like, oh, I really liked these books. Oh my gosh, Kat's got like 375,000 books and Brenda has like
Yes.
270 books. So
Yes.
we can, now you have this backlist that you can
You have a
start.
deep rabbit hole that you can go down in a happy place.
Yes, it makes me really happy when people message me on Facebook like, I just started one of your books and it was amazing. I'm about to start the second one. And then a couple of days later, they're like, I'm on book 4 now. And I'm like, you go, girl. And then within, a week, they're like, I just finished that entire series. And I'm like, it's so freaking awesome that you would spend that much of your time in something I created.
I'm a
Such
big
a great
fan of the
feeling.
rabbit hole. So
Well, and I think,
totally.
is it Anton that is book 1 of The Blaze?
mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it was free at one point and I picked it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? Picked it up. And then I was like, oh. And then it was like, into my library, on hold. I'm like checking them out. And yeah, it was a good 2 weeks.
That one has a really great cover. Well, the whole series has great covers.
I do like those covers. They're very
Thanks.
nice.
Yeah, me too.
Don't mute those covers.
And I'm a big cover person. I love all my covers. Kat and I are working on buying a photo for the 3rd book right now.
Mhm.
And it doesn't suck.
No, it doesn't.
It's not a sad place to be.
No, it's not at all.
I'm a cover snob. And Leah and I go about this. I read a book recently, and I'm not saying what title, people, so do not ask, but I read a book and I read 99%, really 100% on my Kindle. So covers aren't that big of a draw for me as far as reading a book. I'll pick up a book. It doesn't matter what the cover is, but if I'm going to buy the paperback to put on my shelf, it's got to be a really good cover. And I loved this book. It was my top read of December of 2021. I loved it so much.
But she hated the cover.
I hated the cover. I could not buy the paperback. I could not do it because the cover was just that bad.
But there was a
this is
special
off
edition
topic,
cover that came out.
Can I
that she
ask
liked.
you guys' opinion about something cover
Yes.
related?
Of course.
I would love to hear your readerly opinion on this. Do you feel like if you see a book with an animated cover, that is for sure a rom-com?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually.
I was talking about
that's
that
my
earlier,
initial
so-
thought process. I see it an illustrated cover, I think rom-com.
And I see it and think no sex.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I'm really over, honestly, Leah and I gripe daily about the difference between indie publishing and traditional publishing. And a lot of times we're getting a lot of traditional published books with the cute illustrated, and I love an illustrated cover. I own tons of them, more than I probably should own. But, they sell it to me that this is a rom-com, this is a romance. And then I read it, and after I'm done, I look at Leah and I go, okay, that was romance adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I read this?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
And then she's super
Or
grumpy
chick
for
lit.
days.
Yeah. And then I'm
Yes.
grumpy.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm grumpy for days, especially if a book is super hyped. Oh, this was such a sexy, spicy read. I don't know what you're reading, but that was not sexy. It was not.
Yeah.
And actually,
Like
there was
basic closed door, like almost closed door, but it was super spicy.
I picked up a hockey romance
Hmm.
that was in Kindle Unlimited by random last week. It was suggested to me. It was an author's name that I'd never seen before. And I was like, hey, Leah, I'm going to read this. And I got about 2 chapters in. It was not an illustrated cover. It was just a dude shirtless on the cover. But it was really funny and it was really quirky and I was really enjoying it. And I actually kind of freaked out and had to search the word cock in the Kindle to make sure that this wasn't a fade to black or closed door. Because I started to have a panic attack because it was too funny. It was too quirky.
So do you know about this page on Twitter? Have you ever heard of it? It's called Does It Bang?
Yes. Yeah.
No.
I love it. Yeah, because you can submit any book and you ask the community, does it bang? Which means, as we're sucks. And they'll just answer, yes, I can confirm that book does bang.
We actually,
I
so
love it.
in our community, we instituted the POP in our community. It is the put out percentage. It is the percentage of the book that you have to read before there is on page something.
Man.
But
Now,
a kiss
there
does
can
not
be
count.
varying, well,
Kiss does
every
not count.
once in a while it does, because
If
it
dry
depends
humping
on-
is involved.
if dry humping is involved, and it is really, really good. Like, so pop can be varied depending on
But don't
the
you
scene.
you like to wait a certain amount, right? Because isn't that part of the fun?
Not
For me, it
always.
is the anticipation.
No, Melissa Foster's last book popped at 2%. And
Oh,
I was
yeah.
there for it.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Nice.
but
But
then it kept popping.
And then it
There
was
was no-
I'm like,
there was no-
I love Mariana Zapata because she makes me wait like 650 pages. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
my eyes are bleeding and I'm like, yes, girl, finally. I love that slow burn.
We read a book and it popped at 96%. And that was like Kindle worthy throwing. I was like, Leah, I'm done. And she's like,
Oh my God.
stop.
This is-
Oh, but then,
See, this is-
I
this is-
like,
Sorry, go ahead, Leah.
but then I like to remind her she had me read a Christmas book where
I did.
there is no sex
There's no
at
sex.
all, like nothing. Like,
But
I don't even
like
I think they
holidays.
kissed once.
I
Leah,
don't like
read
the
that.
Would do that to
Read
friends.
mine. It's called Night Before Christmas. Night
Okay.
spelled with a K.
Okay.
It's hockey adjacent, but he's retired.
Yeah,
So
it's really good.
read
Oh,
that one, and you will
That
get
was in
hundreds-
that series with Kelly Jamison and
Jamie
Thompson,
Davenport
and David
and Tess
Davenport.
Thompson.
Yes.
Oh, I read Kelly's book in that. I didn't read the other ones.
Well, we had Kelly.
Wow.
We had Kelly for Drunk Book Club. She came and joined us for Drunk Book Club. And after we were done, she sent an email and she's like, do you guys want to read this? And we're like,
Of course.
yes.
Of course
Yes,
we
we
do.
do. So she sent it on to us. She's like, here, this is for you guys. So I was like, okay. So yes, I haven't read Tess's or yours. I did read Jamie's. Something tells me
I read that book that Kat wrote and I loved it. Loved it.
And see, this is one of the fun things about us working together, right? If it was up to me, they would pop like at 10%. Brenda's like, no, we got to wait till 96%. And I'm like, no, that's
No.
not happening. And it's great
No.
as we argue and we compromise. She's like, not
Yeah.
yet. I'm like,
Well,
come
but
on.
they popped pretty early in Hard Limit.
In hard limit,
See, I gave her way. I
Mhm.
gave her way on
'Cause
that
it was-
one because she gave me my way on the first one.
It was
Right.
what, Becky, 12%? I
12%.
think Hard Limit was a 12%.
Isabel says illustrated covers for her are rom-coms for sure. And Gretchen says, yes, cover love. Yeah, Gretchen, I like a chest. I'm not really in love with the alternate cover current thing.
Sometimes it works though. Sometimes those alternate covers really
I think
work.
there's exceptions to every rule. There are some people that can put out anything. There are covers out there that make you just go, what? And they sell, right?
Mhm.
But there are others that it's pretty much proven time and again that you can poll your readers and they will all say, oh yeah, I'm so tired of the man chest. And then you put out a book without a man chest and it doesn't sell.
do as good.
And then you change it to a man chest and sales pick up. So there's something to be said for what readers do versus what they say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
I think
know.
it's super important as an author too to communicate the correct tone with your
Mhm.
cover.
Right.
Otherwise, you're setting your readers up for disappointment. You know, your cover and your blurb should be on point as far as tone. Otherwise, it's not right. I mean, and what is the correct tone? I hope I get it right. I don't know. I try.
Well,
But I think
and
that should be the goal.
I agree. Like there are some authors, they give good blurb. And there are some that like I'll read a blurb and I'm like, oh, that sounds really promising. But the book does not match the blurb. And I'm like, what did I just read?
Yeah.
I'm like,
I write all my own blurbs because I think it's really important that the tone show you this is the writing that you're going to get inside this book.
yeah.
And I couldn't have anybody else writing them. Blurbs are kind of like my thing, but I think
Do you like to write a blurb?
I do because
I think you're
used
one
to
of the
be a
only
journalist.
authors that say that.
Yeah, no, tight writing is our thing.
Cat's
So
like,
I
no.
sit down and usually I hammer it out in like 5 minutes.
She does. She's amazing.
So you write all the blurbs for the
For
co-written
our
books.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Because Kat's like, I want no part of that.
I write
Well,
those.
and then
I
I
write.
pass it through some people for their thoughts and we work on, I don't like bang it out in 5 minutes and it's done. And then I go back to it the next day. Do I still like it? What would I change?
Mhm.
Then we let
And
it
after about
sit
a week,
for a
I'm
few
usually good.
weeks, and then we go back to it and talk about it and whatever. But for my solo books, I write a blurb and then I give it to a professional and say, "Here you go, make it make it like
fix
Brenda
this for me."
does."
Yeah.
And then my publicist takes a look at it, and Brenda takes a look at it. Like, it goes through stages as well.
Susie says she doesn't like a cover that has nothing to do with the book. I agree, Susie. We actually had an issue yesterday. A book I read, the guy had a beard, and it would be a clear, on the cover, the guy had a beard, and it'd be a clear OSHA violation for what his chosen career is.
Oh gosh.
And
Made
we're
her
like,
a little grumpy.
I think some authors make a huge mistake when they do a spicy cover and then the book isn't. Like, what a way to disappoint your readers. Don't.
well,
Just
actually,
because you
like,
got them to click on it.
And I read a book.
Yeah.
The cover guy was blonde haired and blue eyed, but the character had dark hair and like dark eyes. I'm like, just cut him off at the neck next time. Like he had great abs.
Right.
But the face did
Right.
not match the
I can't do
description
that.
at all.
It drives me bonkers. When
But the neck.
when we decided to write Lars's character, we knew that book one, we were going to introduce him in book one, and that book two was going to be his book. And I wanted him to be the really big, large Viking type. And she was a little stressed because she was like, we have to find a cover photo that matches.
I always buy the photo before I write the book, always.
And then you describe based on that.
But
See, that's a great idea.
We did find it.
We did. We did. We have a photographer for the series who is fantastic and really happy with what we found. Funny story about that cover. He has his eyebrow. I can't raise one eyebrow.
Yeah,
Let's try.
he has that eyebrow quirked.
But he's got some wrinkles above that. And we were like, yeah, we're feeling this photo because the photographer sent us a ton of photos of this model. And we're like, and he's like, how about this one? And we're like, yeah, we're feeling it. And then he edits it and he straight lines, it's just a smooth forehead. And Kat was like, oh, where's the wrinkles?
You're like, I want the wrinkles.
So I messaged the photographer and I'm like, can you put the wrinkles back? He thought that was funny. But we like it so much better. It's so expressive,
It is a good cover.
Heather is saying, I love the cover for Hard Limit. So she was so excited for tonight's live. She's one of our Patreon members. And she was like, oh my God, I love this book. I can't believe. And it's not Minnesota Hockey Mom. This is another
We have
Heather.
two Heathers.
Oh, yeah. I have two fans.
Yeah, Minnesota Hockey Mom is on the beach of Florida.
Florida.
She sent us a picture. She sent me a picture today. I was like, I hate you a little bit right now.
Oh, yeah. But if she lives in Minnesota the rest of the time, we got to give a girl a break.
It's true. But
okay.
It's rainy and cold where I am. So
it's
here too.
Snowing here. So if you guys are still hanging out with us, give us a hey in the chat. We're going to draw for a Buzzing About Romance t-shirt. Tell us, Kat, and Brenda, what is next for you? So obviously we're going to get hard pass in May sometime. We're not pinpointing a date because we're not sure.
May 17th.
We are
May
not sure,
17th.
but
We're
they
not
are
sure.
sure.
They're sure it's May 17th. I wrote May 22nd.
My book,
But what's next?
first book in the Lauderdale Night series is called Slapshot, and that is coming March 22nd. So maybe you're confused, Becky, with my book.
It is
That
very
might be
possible.
It
It would not be the first time Becky is confused.
Yeah. Slapshot, March 22nd, and Big Shot, which is big book 2, is June, and I couldn't tell you what date because
That's too far away.
that's
Too
just
far away. Yeah.
So is it a spin-off from one of your other series, or are you starting from scratch with this series?
Both. In the
Okay.
sense that I can tell you, because anybody that's read Night Before Christmas already knows that the head coach of the new team is one of the retired players from the Sidewinders.
Okay.
So
So spin-off adjacent.
spin-off adjacent, yes. But it's a whole new world. I mean, you will see some of the players and some of the friends from my other series, but it's a whole new world, a whole new group of people.
Oh, stop it. You're making that Aladdin song go through my head. You say a whole new world.
You do not want me to sing.
I can't. It's like,
do we?
I just want to sing it.
What's next for you, Brenda?
So I'm writing this standalone that like wasn't in the plan, but is now like I'm living on this island in Fiji. It's called Exiled, and it's the one I was telling you about with the reality show. 16 NHL players, each from a different team, competing, and their partner, they find out when they get to the island, is one of their exes. So that's why it's called Exiled. It's like just like
It's
scratching
like
this
The
major itch for
Bachelor
me.
gone dirty a little bit there.
It's like a
It's
mixture of
like
The
it's
Bachelor
got
and
some
Survivor
Survivor in
and-
it.
Yeah.
I'm
That's what
loving
I
it
thought
so
it was
much.
Survivor, because they're in Fiji.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Like I watched so many episodes of Survivor to prep to write this book. And
We
then
just
my
finished
next
the
book was
season. So.
Kat. And then my next Sin City Saints book comes out in, I think, July.
Okay.
Okay.
And then probably another one with Kat.
Yay. Okay, Kat, pick a number between 1 and 7.
6.
6. Okay, Miss Susie, you won a Buzzing About Romance t-shirt. You can email me, the bees, or Becky at bookcaseandcoffee.com.
Yay.
Yeah, I had to remember what our ending was
Did you?
on the email. It's been a day. I'm having hot flashes
been
like
a
nobody's
week.
business. And I'm not sleeping.
Oh,
I'm so over hot flashes.
yeah, that's not cool.
You're dating yourself, Becky.
I mean, because the gray hairs don't. And the wrinkles. Yeah. Like, anyway, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for Happy Hour with Brenda and Kat. This was delightful and fun. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. We will be back next Thursday with author Krista Sandor talking about The Nanny and the Beefcake. Anyway,
That's fun.
it's so fun. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It was a lot of
Anytime.
fun.
Come back.
Yeah,
Hang out
it was a
with
ton
us.
of fun.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Until next time.
Happy reading, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.